everyone. Welcome to the episode number 3 of the Bass Central podcast. Today we have our coach here at Drury University, Rick Emmitt. He's had some really exciting things going on the past couple weeks. The first thing, he went to Edwin Evers Hall of Fame induction, the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame induction. A couple days later, he gets a letter saying that he's also been inducted, so that's really cool. We all want to congratulate him on that. So it's pretty neat. And you might be asking, why is he going to be induced in the Hall of Fame, whatnot. You might not know enough about him, so we're going to get into his background, maybe his tournament history, his job history, things like that. So he's had a pretty awesome career, and that's why he's getting introduced to the Hall of Fame. So we'll get into that. Pretty excited for this episode, aren't you?
Yeah, man. I mean, I can't tell you how flattered I am to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I mean, it caught me off guard when they called me. I thought they were playing a joke on me at first, but
yeah.
I've been in the industry 35 years, and I guess I'm being rewarded for just what I've contributed to the fishing industry in Missouri and all that. So
which has been a ton, not even in Missouri, but across the whole nation. Rick has definitely been a huge part of that. So we'll get into that. First off, I want to talk a little bit about kind of Pomme De Terre and the maybe fishing report about it. I've had a lot of questions the past 2 weeks about how I'm catching fish there, whatnot. I've had 2 mid-20-pound bags the past couple weekends, and so have people asking me. And, I don't want to give away too much. I wouldn't want to, spoil a local spot that I have. But, I'll give some information of what I think the fish were doing, why they were doing it, whatnot. So if you don't already know, Pomme De Terre is just extremely filled with crappie. I don't know how much you fish there.
I hardly ever fish Pomme anymore. It's probably been... I bet it's been 20 years since I've been
really?
up there. Yeah,
that's quite a while.
But I see all on Facebook people catching big stringers of crappie. So,
yeah. I mean,
there's a bunch of crappie.
The past 2 years probably that I've went, the average size seems to be 11.5 to 12 inches. If you catch a limit, that might be your average size crappie. And so the numbers also are just insane. You'll go. Last couple of weekends ago, I was practicing for one of these tournaments, and you just go in the middle of any pocket off the main lake, and they would just be suspended everywhere, and there was just schools of hundreds of them.
I'll bet that live scope lights up with those crappie on there.
It does. The day I was practicing, I actually called a limit on a jerkbait just because they were 10
big
foot.
Crappie?
Oh, yeah, big, yeah. And I ended up not cleaning them because it's kind of hard to bring them back to school and do that. So, wish I would have. But anyway, so that kind of, that and Lake of the Ozarks, the amount of crappie they have in there, his last couple of years, I've started to have a theory that a lot of those bigger bass just constantly eat crappie, and that's might be their main forage because, the numbers of shad especially in Pomme De Terre, aren't there, such as on Table Rock and whatnot, but the numbers of crappie are. So that's kind of what I've been focusing on the past couple weeks is if you find some sort of structure that crappie would be relating on, that seems to be where the big bass are relating to. That could be on points. I found on the edge of, if you find a flatter bank that's really close to deep water, where crappie kind of suspend in that area. There's been a lot of big bass there. It's been a lot on an A-rig. Actually last weekend I threw all 3.3 swim baits on there, and just being able to watch it with a live scope has been very important. A lot of those bigger fish, it seems, are closer to the bottom. They kind of hug the bottom, and so you got to get it down there and keep your A-rig down there.
Are they hanging out in trees or
some of them
just
are
open water?
Mainly around some sort of structure that's close to the bottom. So if it's timber, there might be some smaller bass suspended up in the timber, but mainly the bigger fish seem to be closer to the bottom, whether that's the base of timber, base of a rock pile, or maybe a brush pile where crappie are. Something like that. It seems to be pretty good. And
so you're catching some crappie on an A-rig?
No, I'm not catching a crappie on them. I'm fishing around the crappie.
Those are big crappie, probably.
Yeah. But I think it's just, and every single other person I see almost is fishing steep banks of some sort, because that's how you catch fish in the winter, and you definitely can still keep catching fish like that. But I'm trying to look for something different. So I might be fishing points, or I might be fishing a transition banks, something a little different. So you just have to look for those different things. And if there's crappie in that area, there's probably going to be bass there too, whether it's because the shad are there, and so that's why the crappie are, or the bass are just following the crappie. I don't know, but
there's a little lake in Arkansas I fish with some big ones in there, and they eat crappie.
Do they? Yeah, a lot of crappie in there.
Mm-hmm.
I
won't reveal the lake, but
yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
Keep that secret. But anyway, I think that, like Lake of the Ozarks, it's got to be one of the best, or if not the best, fishery for 3 to 5 pound bass in Missouri. And,
I would agree with that.
And it's really hard to fish it most of the year, so it doesn't get to shine to its full potential. But those fish, I mean, there's so many crappie in that lake that they have to be eating a large amount of crappie. And those fish just spin around the docks where the crappie are quite often. So I think that's the same thing with Pomme De Terre. So, you might not want to necessarily follow the shad or anything. Just look for structure where crappie might be close by, or if you're looking for, and most of it's been 15 to 25 foot. So, just look for structure, and it's been mainly on an A-rig. So
when you throw the A-rig, do you just count it down and let it sink before you start reeling it? Or
I watch it on my live scope.
Just watch it go down on
I watch it on my live scope. Yeah. So generally I like to keep a piece of structure. So say it's a piece of timber, and I can tell there's maybe a fish or two on the bottom, because you can sometimes see those bigger fish when they sit in front of trees on the bottom. And I'll watch it go down, and I'll start reeling it when it's about 2 foot above the bottom, a foot or two above the bottom, because you want it to be close enough. The water temp's 40 degrees, so they don't want to chase too much, but an A-rig, they'll chase more than anything. So if you get it within a couple feet of them, it seems like they will follow if you keep down there closer to the bottom. So that's kind of.
Now, are you pointing the transducer, the trolling motor head ahead of you where you're casting to 60 or 80 feet, and you watch it?
Right, yeah. I'll keep that tree. So if I'm fishing,
I know you're good at live scope.
Yeah, so if I'm fishing,
too many secrets.
If I'm fishing that piece of structure, or say it's that same tree, and say there's crappie suspended over top of it, and there's some bass underneath them, I'll keep that 40 foot at the very closest, because you don't want to get close enough to where you spook any of those fish, because those crappie are easily spooked, but also those bass. I mean, they're big for a reason, and so you want to keep it between 40 and 80 foot probably. And I just watch my rig go down there, and whenever you see the bass chasing it, a lot of times you have to do something different. You have to speed it up and then slow it down to make that A-rig kind of pulsate or twitch it. I mean, a lot of guys just twitch it constantly while they're working it, something like that to make them react to it. So
I usually just crank it real fast.
Right, that's generally what I do.
One or two handle.
I like to keep my line tight instead of popping it, because then your line can be loose. Times like that. So anyway, that's kind of what I've been doing at Pomme De Terre. So it's a very good fishery. It's really healthy right now. So it's a great place to fish.
I'm going to have to get up there, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's a great place. There's always, I've heard of, 29 to 33 pound bags caught in the wintertime there, which, that might not have happened in the past couple years, but there's still a lot of mid 20 pound bags, whether it's winter, summer. It happens quite often. So
these last two tournaments, you had like 26 pounds?
24 and 26.
24 and 26. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's a good lake, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Great fishery. So, yeah, it's better than going out to Table Rock when you don't know what you're doing, and maybe catching a couple keepers.
It's very difficult to catch a 24-pound bag on Table Rock.
Yeah,
very
it is.
difficult.
And it sounds like a lot of those big largemouth might be 80 foot down, so it's really hard to get to them a lot of times lately. So anyway, that's kind of what's going on Pomme De Terre. But now I want to get into what Rick does. So he's our full-time head coach, bass fishing coach here at Drury, and we'll just start at the beginning of his career kind of, and maybe go through the jobs he's had, tournament history maybe that you fished over the years.
Yeah, I haven't fished a lot of tournaments. I'll fish some buddy tournaments here and there. I fished. I did well in an open as a co-angler. So I don't fish a lot of tournaments, but I've been fishing since I was 10 years old. I remember catching my first 5-pound bass when I was 10 on a man's jelly worm on an old Zebco 33. That may be before your time, but and after I caught that fish, it just stuck with me. I mean, I was hooked on fishing the rest of my life. But I've worked with Bass Pro 35 years. Recently retired. This is my 4th day with Drury now, full time. I coached Drury the last 6 years part-time, on a part-time basis. So things I've done with Bass Pro over the years, started out in sales, was in customer service, parts, moved to marketing in 2000, and the last 13 years I've been working with our Nitro and Bass Pro team, which Kevin Van Dam, Edwin Evers, Ott Defoe, Tim Horton, Rick Clun. I'm going to leave out some people. But, it's the dream job if you're a fisherman,
right, if
you're an angler, to get to talk to those guys every day and have them in your phone and build inch. People looking through my phone. You got Bill Dance's phone number in there,
Yeah.
you know, and just so it's you know, as an angler, it's been my dream job. After 35 years, I retired, and coaching Drury the last 6 years, it's just, you know, coaching you guys and watching you succeed, and you've had a lot of success yourself, winning several tournaments. It's just very rewarding to me to see you guys do good. It's almost like you're my kids, and I'm proud of you. You know, so it's great when you guys succeed. But you know, we started out the first year. I think I had 4 or 5 kids.
How did you even get into the role of being coach? How did that even come about?
Yeah, good question. Charlie Campbell, he's a Drury alum, and he recently, he passed away last early spring, but Charlie recommended me to Edsel Matthews, the athletic director at the time, and he talked to me about it, and I thought, you know, I could do that full or part-time. It might be something fun and be able to give back a little bit, so I accepted it. The first year was quite a challenge. I think we had 5 kids maybe, and only 2 of them owned boats, and only 2 of them had ever fished a tournament before.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of take kids that were already going to Drury that just liked to fish.
Right.
Maybe fished a farm pond or something. So we didn't have a lot of success that first year. But over time, the last couple of years, as we've had success, you know, I look to recruit some of the top high school anglers such as yourself, and you know, going to the high school tournaments and getting a little bit familiar with who's good. It's just like any other sport. You know, you go to AAU basketball tournaments and see who's doing well, and same with high school tournaments, and you want to try to recruit the kids, you know, that are having success at that level. So we 3 years ago, I believe, we finished around 30th in the country, and then right at 30th again the following year, and then last year we were lucky enough, with a lot of help from you, to finish 8th in the country, and now we missed a couple of tournaments this year with COVID, but we're currently ranked 9th. So my goal is for us to win a national championship, and I think it's going to come sooner than later.
I think it is too, and especially since if you're not on our team, you might not realize, but Rick is no doubt the best college coach in the country. Just the amount of work that he does for us, and it's just incredible the effort he puts in, and he's a get-her-done type of dude. If you ask him to do something, he's not going to forget about it, you know, like other people might do, or maybe other coaches who, you know, the fishing team isn't their top priority. Rick really cares about the team and really appreciative of that. But I mean, he's really put an effort to build this program up, and this is his first year actually working solely for Drury as the coach. So now he has his full time and effort, and he was already the best coach. So I'm really excited to see where this goes, because now he has full time to do it. So
I appreciate you saying that. Sounds like you're putting a little pressure on me now.
No pressure, no pressure.
But thank you very much for saying that, and you know, it's just a joy to work with you guys, and I feel like I'm giving back a little bit, and it's very rewarding for me. So I am excited about being able to do this full time. You know, this week people are asking me, well, what are you going to do all day?
Yeah.
You know? And I've been booking our travel and working on talking to some of the recruits that have expressed interest, and doing a little research on the lake. So, you know, I'm going to stay busy. Mm-hmm. And as you know, we travel a lot. We'll travel to 12 to 15 events, which is challenging for you guys to make up your schoolwork, because we're gone so much. And
it's a big schedule.
It is, and I really believe, and I think it's true, that collegiate bass fishing is the hardest sport to compete in. One is it's very expensive.
Yeah.
And 2, you're traveling so much, and as you know, the events are sun up to sundown, and then you're working on your tackle after. So you don't have time to make up your homework.
Not
hardly.
much time at all, no.
Yeah, and
it's tough.
And we still joke about this, but one professor made a comment to one of the kids, said, well, why don't you make up your homework on the bus ride there and back? There's no bus ride. Yeah. So, you know, getting the school even to understand the program's been a little bit of a challenge, but as we're having our success, they're starting to pay a little bit of attention. So naturally, they're wanting me to grow the program, and I'm hoping to grow it to 20 to 25 kids. And as you know, the more teams you take to these college events, the better your chances are to to compete for School of the Year points. And depending on the circuit, there's 3 collegiate circuits. Some circuits, your top team, 1 team counts. Another circuit, your top 2 team counts. So they're 2-person teams. We'll usually take anywhere from 3 to 5 teams to the events. We try to take as many as you can, but we also have to be worried about the missed class time. And naturally, you want to take your better anglers. Although all of our anglers are good fishermen.
We have a good team. Yeah,
we do. So,
and I mean, also with this growth of the program, it's happened over the past couple of years for sure. Because before, the professors didn't really understand that we were going to bass fishing tournaments. They didn't understand that was part of a school event or whatnot. And so, I would say that our team's definitely grown in notoriety over the school. And them giving him a full-time job and helping us out more and things like that. And I would say finishing 8th in the country last year really helped our cause here, Drury. Helped it, maybe
Definitely
the school
did.
realized that hey, bass fishing in college is actually a really big thing. There's a lot of schools that compete. So
it is, and a lot of the tournaments are on national television. They're on the Outdoor Channel or NBC Sports or other channels. So I'm anxious. I've been looking at, and I always DVR the college circuit on the Outdoor Channel, and I'm anxious for the events you want at Dardanelle to be on. So
yeah,
they're usually a little bit behind on their editing. It takes them maybe a year to air that. So.
I talked to the guy that edits them in, let's see, about a couple weeks after we won that tournament, and he said that they're still working on the Pickwick Championship, which was in early June, and this was 5 months later. He's still working on it. So
the last 3 episodes I've watched have been that tournament. So they're behind for sure.
Yeah, they just got them done.
Yeah.
Now. So.
But to get the exposure on national TV, unless here at Drury the men's and women's basketball programs are pretty top notch, and the only time they'll get exposure is when they're in the national championship or something, which they have made. But we're getting exposure now, so that's invaluable to the school. It's kind of funny. I actually had a kid from Russia reach out to me and wants to come over and fish for Drury. So for him to find out about our program, and they don't even have bass fishing over there.
Right.
He's catching yellow perch and pike, but I can see he's got the passion for fishing. I looked at his Facebook page, and he's fishing every day, and like a lot of us. And if he has that fishing passion, we can teach him how to catch bass. So
right.
that'd be kind of cool if we can get him to come over.
I would say that effort and passion is definitely what matters.
Yep,
You can definitely learn a lot of things.
And that's when I'm recruiting students. That's the number one thing I look at is do they have the passion? And I could tell you had the passion right away. And Drury being a good academic school, you've got to make the grades to be able to qualify.
Right.
And one thing I'm really proud of our kids is more than half the team made the dean's list, the honor roll list last year. So that's pretty impressive to be able to make up your work like you do. So I'm really proud of you guys.
Especially when we're missing 4 to 5 days of class in a row.
Yeah,
it's not easy, but to keep fishing, I think most of us would do about anything. So we're definitely going to keep up with that. And
I hope so, because I'll be on you all the time now that
I know it.
That I'm here full time. So.
Yeah, and with him being here full time too, I mean, not only does he do everything he said, but he's got plans that are above and beyond any other program that's out there. And so we might not mention quite everything yet, but as big changes come at Drury, because they're going to happen, this team's going to grow and expand and definitely become one of the top in the country if we're not already close to being there. And so. There's a lot of things.
I've told some of the college coaches I know that I'm coming after him. So.
And he is.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely have him on more throughout the spring and be able to talk about the changes that we're making or advancements that we're making or things like that. Maybe that we grow the team more and have just expand the team and make it better. So
I've
got
more
plans for that.
I think I've got solid commitments from 4 right now. And a junior that wants to commit the following year. And so I'm going to really focus on that. And the quality of anglers we're bringing in, I'm really excited about it. So.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Yep.
So, awesome. That's a good chat about college. And I had a couple more questions.
Sure.
And Rick, you have a lake house at Table Rock, right?
Yep.
And so that's where most of your fishing is.
That's why I haven't fished Pomme in 25
Right,
years.
right. So he does a lot of fishing on Table Rock, and there's been some interesting changes over the years on Table Rock because there's all three species, and they've all three been good. They've all three been bad before, and so Rick has caught some really big ones on Table Rock, but right now it seems like the largemouth population is struggling a little bit on size.
Yeah.
And
the big ones, anyway.
The big ones, yeah. But years ago, you've caught several big ones. What's your biggest Table Rock bass?
I actually 8.2 is my largest Table Rock bass, and I caught an 8.2 and an 8.1 in consecutive weekends back when this was in probably the late 90s.
Didn't you catch a bigger one?
Aging myself. Well, I caught one I didn't weigh. It was on Christmas night back in the early 2000s. I do a lot of night fishing in the winter. I don't like to reveal that to too many people. But I caught one right off the bat, and it was, I had caught a 9-pounder before, not on Table Rock, but it was bigger than that. I think it was double digits, but I didn't have a scale with me that night, and I was by myself, and I couldn't even hardly take a picture before digital camera or cameras on your phone. So I put it in the live well. I didn't know what to do. I was thinking about going back home and having my buddy take a picture of it, but it was so big it wasn't fitting in the live well very well. So I let it go. I didn't want to kill it, but I don't know why Table Rock, the largemouth the population's not what it used to be. The only thing I can think of is, we did have the largemouth bass virus.
What year did that happen?
I think it was early 2000s, if I remember right. And it's weird because it kind of hit across the country, and me and my buddy used to go to Lake Fork a couple of times a year, and we saw it hit down there the time we went. I think it was 99 or 2000, and there was 10, 12, 14-pound largemouth floating on the surface. It just made you sick.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't a month or two later that it started hitting all around the country, and it hit Table Rock.
Right.
And you could see some big fish there.
And Table Rock, I mean, in the 80s, 90s, has been a really great place to catch really big largemouth.
It was, yeah.
And there, I mean, lots of 8, 9-pounders caught.
Every
constantly.
tournament, yeah.
Didn't your dad catch a...
Dad caught almost an 11-pounder.
Yeah.
It was like 10, 13.
Yeah, that's a...
I've actually, I'm waiting to put it up in my office here at Drury.
Yeah.
I had it in my Bass Pro office, but yeah, and then when a couple of days later, Mike Webb caught an 11-pounder, and it was, both of them were caught on the A-rig.
Right.
And I got a funny story. Charlie Campbell and my dad were buddies, and they did the fishing tips together and stuff, but Charlie absolutely hated the Alabama rig and thought it was cheating, and always thought that. So when Dad caught it, he didn't want to tell Charlie what he caught it on, but Charlie forced it out of him, and he said, "Well, it was on Alabama rig," and Charlie said, "Well, it doesn't count then, Jack." So
that's funny.
But then it wasn't a few days later, Mike Webb caught an 11-pounder. Just topped Dad by a couple ounces. So
Yeah.
I go, you had to show him up, didn't you?
That's crazy.
But when that largemouth bass virus hit, the spotted bass, the Kentuckies, really started getting fat and big.
And that's the interesting thing that I wanted to talk about is I've heard guys talk about it, that they were catching 20 and to the 22, 23-pound mark of limits of spotted bass. And that's kind of what I found interesting when I heard that for the first time, because now the numbers of spotted bass are there, but it's really hard to come across a 3-pounder.
Yeah, if you can get a 3-pounder.
I mean, that's a good spotted bass on Table Rock.
You can get one that's feeding on shad and fat, But
and, I mean, I think the record's 6.5 pounds out of there.
I think so.
But whenever it killed off all those big largemouth, it kind of opened up the doors for the smallmouth and spotted bass to grow, gave them more forage, things like that. So,
yeah.
What's the biggest couple spotted bass, or maybe limits of spotted bass you've heard down there currently after the largemouth kill?
Well, at that time, right afterwards, I mean, you catch a 4-pounder every time you go, pretty much. I'd say 21, 22 pounds spot.
Yeah.
5 spots would win a tournament. And,
that
lasted for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years maybe.
Right.
And the smallmouth never, I mean, their population is good. It didn't seem to affect the smallmouth. I mean, you could still catch smallmouth. It was the spotted bass that got bigger all of a sudden. And but now smallmouth fishing, when I fish in the wintertime at night, a lot of times, that's primarily what I catch. And
Right.
we'll catch a lot of 3 to 4 pound smallmouth bass. So Table Rock smallmouth fishery is awesome.
It is really
You know,
good.
rarely do you catch a 6 pounder, but you know you can catch 4 plus there
I
all the time.
actually heard Bass Talk Live. Don't know if you listen to them much.
Some, yep.
But Frank Scalish was on. He's a Great Lakes guy. He's really good on Lake Erie, and he's got lots of big smallmouth up there. And they were talking about his favorite places to smallmouth fish in the country. And they said, "What's your favorite non-Great Lakes smallmouth fishery?" And he said Table Rock.
He said Table Rock.
He said
Yeah.
Table Rock because
I know Frank. Yeah.
he's been down here a couple times and caught 17 and 19 pound bags of them.
Yep.
And I mean, there's big ones in there, and there's seems to be a lot of smallmouth. And you know, recently it seems like the numbers of largemouth, maybe the size of largemouth mainly, has been a problem. It's hard to come across a 4 or 5 pounder lately.
Yeah.
And same thing with the spotted bass. There's a ton of them, but they're just not very big.
No, they're not.
And I think to make the lake better all around, all 3 species, if we had some sort of limit on spotted bass, or maybe even a slot limit where you could keep them between 12 and 16 inches to get a lot of those. I mean, there's a lot of 14-inch spotted bass that eat a lot of shad because they're continuously, I mean, footballs.
When I don't do it a lot, but when I deep fish in the winter and summer, those fish are catching 60 to 80 foot deep. I mean, they're just gorging on shad down there. So
huge. I mean, I think that, you know, there needs to be some sort of change to be had, and then, you know, a couple years down the road, maybe the largemouth, smallmouth, and spotted bass could get better. But it just seems like there's too many of those medium-sized ones that are just eating up everything.
I agree, and then I think pressure's a little bit of it too. I mean, there's a lot of tournaments on Table Rock, a lot of different theories. You know, when the A rig first came out, the Alabama rig, they were catching, you know, 7, 8, 9 pounders,
Right.
for a year or two, but you don't even see that now. So I don't know if anglers were keeping the larger fish and mounting them, or
that's something
I really
I've heard.
don't know.
That's something I've heard,
So,
that the genetics might have left the lake because a lot of guys would catch those 8, 9, 10 pounders and keep them, mount them, and whatnot. And then also I've heard that maybe all the cover and structures deteriorated, so there's not as much, you know, cover for them to hang around. There's still a lot of still a lot of timber in the lake, but a lot of it might be just pole timber. There's not maybe a whole lot of branches on them anymore, stuff like that. So not quite as good as cover as there used to be. But
I agree.
a lot of reasons that might lead to that. But yeah, so there you have it. We'll have Rick on probably quite a few more times talking about maybe, you know, whatever we want to talk about, college fishing and whatnot.
Hopefully talking about the tournaments that we win.
Hopefully talking about the tournaments we win and going over our great future plans for the program. So
absolutely.
Yeah, great having you on today,
All
Rick.
right, man, appreciate it. Thank you.
Please come back for episode number 4. Thank you.